are you, ma'am?
Please just help me out. I don't know where my parents are.
Ma'am, calm down. What?
Some people broke into our house and they just showed all his money. And I could hear my parents yelling downstairs. Please send help.
Ma'am, where are you? What?
Avenue.
Avenue Road.
Yes.
Can you spell the street name for me, please?
Dad.
In Ontario, Canada, specifically with the Pan family. The story begins in 1979 when the father, Han Pan, emigrated from Vietnam to Canada as a political refugee. There he met the mother, Bích Ha Pan, who was also a refugee from Vietnam. They got to know each other for some time, then got married and settled in Toronto, Ontario. In 1986, their first daughter, Jennifer, the protagonist of our story, was born. 3 years later, her brother, Felix, was born in 1989. During their early days in Canada, the parents worked tirelessly to provide a decent life for their children, a life they were deprived of in their childhood. The family lived in Scarborough for a while, and both parents worked in a car manufacturing plant for many years. By 2004, the family had achieved excellent financial stability. They purchased their dream home in an upscale neighborhood in Markham, Ontario. They owned luxury cars and had savings exceeding $200,000. The family was a shining example of immigrant success in the West. Han and his wife expected their children to excel and mapped out a clear path for them from an early age, awaiting the best results. For instance, they enrolled their daughter Jennifer in a piano institute when she was 4 years old, where she excelled and stood out. When she started school, she was an outstanding student in all subjects, earning every award any student could dream of. Later, they registered her in a figure skating club where she excelled. She was even capable of competing in the Olympics, but her skating career ended when she suffered a neck injury, forcing her to retire from the sport. During her elementary school years, she would return from the skating club at around 10 p.m., then complete her homework until midnight before going to bed. This routine caused her immense pressure, especially since her father was extremely strict about academics. He expected his children to achieve top grades and excel in everything. On the other hand, the mother was strict but less intense in her approach, like most mothers. When Jennifer turned 14, she was confident she would be named the top student in school. However, she was shocked to see another student win the title. This left her deeply disappointed, and that moment marked a significant turning point in her life. She began to think, why should I work hard if someone else takes the prize? But she kept those feelings to herself. The following academic year, specifically in 9th grade, her performance dropped significantly, with her grades averaging 70% after previously earning perfect scores. Determined not to disappoint her parents or let them down, Jennifer chose to avoid confronting the truth and instead resorted to forging her report cards. Every school year, she presented fake grades to appease her parents and avoid their anger. Despite her parents' strict monitoring and their continuous trust in her, Jennifer was secretly doing many things behind their backs. Among these was attending parties without their knowledge. For example, during one party in the 11th grade, despite her asthma, Jennifer went out with her friends. At the party, people were smoking, which triggered a severe asthma attack. A classmate named Daniel helped her outside until her condition stabilized. From that moment, a romantic relationship began between them. Daniel was a rebellious student with a bad reputation. He was known for using and selling drugs. Despite this, Jennifer became attached to him and considered him the person who saved her life. Jennifer's secrets didn't stop there. She failed her final year of high school, but fear of her parents' reaction drove her to continue lying. She claimed to have graduated with honors and enrolled in a science program at a local college for 2 years. As time went on, she purchased a fake diploma and presented it to her parents. She then told them she was accepted into the University of Toronto to study pharmacy. Her parents, who dreamed of their daughter pursuing a medical profession, provided her with everything she needed: a new computer, a modern phone, textbooks, and other supplies. All the while Jennifer hadn't even graduated from high school. Her life was under her parents' control. She wasn't allowed to stay out late, socialize with boys, drink alcohol, or travel alone. Yet, she deceived them daily, taking her belongings and pretending to attend university while spending her time in cafes and libraries learning about pharmacy, and medical concepts to answer her parents' questions convincingly. Additionally, Jennifer worked at cafes and gave piano lessons to earn money for herself and spend time with Daniel away from her parents' watchful eyes. After another 2 years, she told her father that she had earned a scholarship to continue her pharmacy studies and that she would need to stay 3 days a week at her friend Topaz's house, which was closer to campus. Her father was thrilled and agreed to her request. In reality, she was staying at Daniel's house with his family, lying to them that her parents approved. When they asked to meet her parents, she avoided the topic with excuses. Time passed, but it was clear from the beginning that Jennifer was hiding a lot and that things could eventually end in disaster. After 2 additional years, the time for graduation arrived. At that stage, her boyfriend Daniel helped her acquire another forged certificate. Jennifer told her father that the university issued only 1 invitation card per student and that she had given it to her friend, the one she had been staying with, as a token of gratitude for all her support. This was a tactic to keep her parents from attending the ceremony and discovering her lies. After graduating, Jennifer claimed she would volunteer at a blood analysis lab in a major downtown hospital to gain experience before securing a formal job. She requested permission to continue staying with her friend, explaining that her work shifts would occasionally be overnight. However, her parents began noticing suspicious details, such as her lack of a work ID, no hospital-issued badge, or even a uniform. Growing increasingly doubtful, they decided to monitor her. One day, they drove her to the hospital and asked to see her workplace, but she refused, citing strict sterilization protocols that only allowed staff into the area. Jennifer quickly got out of the car and entered the hospital, but her father followed her. Despite this, he couldn't find her, as she hid inside the building. He wandered around and asked the staff about her presence. The response shocked him. The hospital had no volunteers, nor was there an employee named Jennifer. When they returned home, her parents confronted her, and she confessed to all her lies. She admitted that she hadn't even graduated high school, never attended university, and had been spending those years with her boyfriend Daniel. This revelation was a devastating blow to her parents, who blamed Daniel for leading her astray. Her parents decided to impose severe restrictions on her. They confined her to the house, banned her from using her phone or going anywhere except for piano lessons, and insisted she return to high school and then pursue university studies. Her father sternly declared, "You will only do what you want after I'm dead." But Jennifer was madly in love with Daniel. Secretly, he gave her a phone to keep in touch, and they continued meeting in secret during her school breaks or piano lessons. Over time, Jennifer grew increasingly frustrated with her restrictive life, and Daniel became tired of the complicated relationship. At that point, Jennifer devised a sinister plan. Rather than ending her own life, she decided to eliminate her parents, freeing herself from their control and inheriting their wealth, which exceeded $1 million. She proposed the idea to Daniel, and he agreed to help. Given his involvement in the drug trade, he knew some criminals. He provided Jennifer with a phone containing an untraceable SIM card and the contact information of a man named Crawford. Jennifer contacted Crawford, who quoted her $20,000 to carry out the plan. However, he agreed to reduce the price to $10,000 thanks to Daniel's intervention. Jennifer agreed to the deal, but stipulated that payment would only be made after her parents' deaths and after she received her inheritance. The group continued coordinating the operation. On November 8, 2010, everything seemed normal. Jennifer was in her room. Her father returned home from work and watched TV for a while, and her mother was at a dance class. When her mother returned home, her father went upstairs to his room to sleep, and Jennifer sat in the living room, taking her father's place, to watch TV. Later, she went to the kitchen under the pretense of getting a glass of water, bid her mother goodnight with the words, "Good night, Mom," and went upstairs to her room. But something unexpected happened. Jennifer returned through the entrance and left immediately. You'll understand the reason later. Only a few minutes passed before 3 armed men broke into the house. Crawford, along with 2 others, David and Cardi. They first seized the mother, who was in the living room, and asked her where the money was. Meanwhile, David and Cardi went upstairs to search for the rest of the family, finding both the father and Jennifer. They brought them downstairs, shouting at them to reveal the location of the money. This scene lasted about 18 minutes. Jennifer says she was in her room preparing for bed when she heard screaming downstairs, followed by footsteps approaching her room. When she opened the door, she was surprised to see one of the armed men pointing a gun at her and holding a rope. He tied her up and began asking about the money, then took her with him to search the rooms of the house for any cash. In her room, Jennifer gave him the money she had, about $2,500, which she had earned from her piano lessons. They then took her downstairs with her parents, where they found an additional $1,100 in her mother's bag. After that, they took the mother to the basement while they returned Jennifer to the upstairs and tied her to the banister. In the cellar, Jennifer began to hear the armed men yelling at her parents with phrases like, "You lied to me," and "He lied to me too." After a few moments, she heard 5 gunshots. Jennifer says she stayed tied up upstairs while the house fell silent. She tried to move and managed to pull out a hidden phone and call emergency services. It was a terrifying moment, especially for Jennifer, who became the sole survivor. During the call, the police heard a man scream, and Jennifer confirmed it was her father's voice, but she hadn't heard her mother's voice and didn't know what had happened to her. When the police arrived, they found her father had managed to leave the house, screaming for help. He had been shot but was able to survive and escape. Upon arrival, the police found Jennifer tied up upstairs, while her father was lying on the floor inside the house. He was rushed to the hospital, where he fell into a coma. At the police station, the investigation began with Jennifer, who stated that her mother had returned home around 9:30 p.m. and began calling for her father. While she was in her room, she heard footsteps approaching, and when she opened the door, she was shocked to see one of the attackers who tied her up and took her around the house searching for money. Jennifer said the attackers were 3 black men, dressed in all black, with each carrying a weapon. But the investigators questioned, why wasn't Jennifer harmed? And why were her parents executed in the basement while she was left tied up upstairs? The investigators asked Jennifer to demonstrate how she was able to call emergency services despite being tied up. She explained that the attackers had tied her under her shoulders, not her wrists, which allowed her some movement and enabled her to take out the phone and make the call. After the first session, she was released, but the next day, they called her back for further questioning after noticing some suspicious details. Despite the presence of 2 luxury cars, money, and expensive electronics in the house, the criminals didn't steal anything. Jennifer's brother, Alex, returned home to hold a memorial for their mother. During the memorial, the investigators were observing the situation. They noticed that Jennifer didn't shed a single tear, which raised their suspicions. Meanwhile, her father was still in the hospital, between life and death. After a few days, the father miraculously woke up from his coma and began speaking. He told the police what had happened at the house, but his story was completely different from Jennifer's. He said, "Don't believe anything she said," and pointed out that she had been talking to one of the attackers as if she knew him. This was not the first time Jennifer's lie had been exposed. Investigators found messages on her phone between her and her boyfriend, as well as some criminals. There was a message from Daniel saying he had prepared everything for her, and another message from her phone directed to one of the criminals, explaining how to enter using VIP access. This revelation uncovered what Jennifer had not anticipated. Her father survived the incident. From then on, she became the primary suspect in the investigation and went from being the victim to the main suspect. She was called in for questioning, and this time, the investigator in charge was highly experienced and skilled at detecting lies. He told her that he could easily tell if she was lying or telling the truth, and that her father was still alive and had witnessed everything. Upon hearing this, Jennifer's statements completely changed, shocking the investigators. Jennifer confessed that she had planned to be the target and explained the reason. She said that her father had prevented her from seeing her boyfriend, which led her to contemplate ending her life. She had attempted this multiple times, but failed. Therefore, she reached out to a hitman to come to the house and end her life. When the criminals broke into the house, Jennifer decided to cancel the operation. However, the hitman demanded a cancellation fee of $10,000. Since she didn't have that amount and had no inheritance to claim, the criminals decided to take revenge by ending the lives of her father and mother. The investigators were confused by the truth of her statements and summoned her boyfriend Daniel for questioning. The shock came when Daniel confessed everything, confirming that she had been in contact with the criminals to plan the deaths of her parents. The investigators also found many messages on her phone, despite her claim that the SIM card had been lost. They were able to recover some messages and link them to the events. Among the messages they found was one from a criminal saying, "Once I finish some tasks, the game will start on November 8th. They also found another message mentioning VIP access sent just seconds before the crime, almost as if it were a signal to begin the break-in. These messages matched the surveillance footage showing the criminals entering the house. The investigators also noticed that one of the rooms on the upper floor was flickering on and off, which was seen as a signal from Jennifer's room to the criminals that the door was open. Based on this evidence, Jennifer was arrested for the murder of her mother and the attempted murder of her father, along with the criminals and her boyfriend for their involvement in the crime. In court, 3 versions of the story emerged. The first version, which Jennifer initially claimed, was where the criminals broke into the house and tied her up without her knowledge. The second version, which she later admitted, where she had planned to end her life but backed out at the last moment. The third version is from her boyfriend Daniel, who confirmed that Jennifer was attempting to get rid of her parents. With all the evidence, the 5 were sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Jennifer was also banned from communicating with any of her family members or inheriting anything. It is expected that she may be able to file an appeal in 2025, and if accepted, she may be released. Otherwise, she will continue serving her sentence. Reports indicate that over 250 similar crimes are committed annually in America against family members. These crimes are classified into 3 types. When children suffer continuous abuse or assault from their parents, leading them to seek revenge. When there is mental illness or psychological issues. When children hold opposing views to societal values, leading them to eliminate their parents for money or because of rejection of parental control. Jennifer falls under the third type. Her life was built on lies, and she continued lying until the situation spiraled out of control. Her father, despite surviving the crime, feels dead inside. His daughter destroyed his family and life, tearing them all apart. Now, her father was no longer able to work due to his injuries. He suffers from insomnia and nightmares as a result of the tremendous trauma he endured. This incident was a harsh shock to his life, and he could no longer bear staying in the house alone, so he decided to move in with relatives in another city. As for her brother, he moved to the East Coast after graduating from college to escape the scandal involving his sister. He became withdrawn and suffers from depression. The parents had great hopes for their children, but because of Jennifer's lies, everything collapsed. Jennifer was able to escape and live far from her family, but she lacked the strength to face her father, so she chose to eliminate them rather than cause them another disappointment. Furthermore, lying became an integral part of her life, to the point where she lied effortlessly as if drinking water, even believing her lies and living them as if they were reality. For those who want to hear this story on Spotify or dive deeper into the details, you can get the full ebook, which contains additional events and exclusive insights not covered in this video. You'll find all the links in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more gripping stories. Thank you for your support, and see you soon in a new tale.